Alright, and now let's get down to the real nitty gritty. And like I said, if you want to check this game out for yourself, want to get an idea of how it's played as it's being played, David is doing a Let's Play of Card Hunter over on his channel, Ace of Hearts Gaming. It is a free-to-play game available on Steam. It was actually released on July 13th from the group Blue Manchu. It was a browser game 2 years ago, but it was re-released on Steam, completely free to play. It does have a cash shop, but we'll get to that. It does have a single-player campaign, but there's also a multiplayer PvP, and you can also have a friend play co-op with you. If you have a friend in the chat and you invite them in, they can play cooperatively through. And the entire premise of this game is that basically you are playing through a series of one-on-one D&D campaigns with this relative neophyte game master named Gary. But you play the game, while there is some dice rolling mechanics involved, the dice rolling mechanics are all RNG based. They're all automated, so you don't have to worry about rolling dice. Instead, you pick your moves by using power cards. So it's kind of a little bit of a love letter to really all of the various different flavors and editions of Dungeons & Dragons. The power cards are very 4E, of course. The hit points and armor systems are more akin to other tabletop RPGs, where armor works as a way to decrease damage, as opposed to determine whether or not you're hit. But you do have also various different blocking cards that have different effects based on what the attack is, and they can block a certain amount of damage. There's attack cards, there are defense cards, there are spell cards within the attacks that you can use, but there's also healing spell cards, and then there's equipment cards which can be used for defense or movement. There are 3 races for your various different characters. You can have dwarven characters, which are slow but durable. You have humans, which are the more balanced characters. And you have elves, which are really, really fast, but kind of squishy. Elf characters you'll probably want to use for wizard classes. Human characters can be either good humans or good clerics. You can use a human spellcaster if you want. Dwarves, of course, make really, really good warriors. You could probably get away with using one as a cleric, since clerics do have attack capabilities as well, but you're probably going to want them to be warriors so that they can get in, draw the most attention, and do the most damage. Of course, your characters do have health points, but they also have a certain number of cards that they can draw per turn. Every turn, you'll draw 1 movement card and 2 additional cards. And your base movement card, of course, depends on what race you are. Like I said, if it's a dwarf, it'll be a 1-step move, a walk. If you're a human, it'll be a 2-step move, or run. And if you're an elf, it'll be a 3-step move, or a dash. At the end of every turn, once 2 people have passed their turns, a round ends, then you have to discard your hand down to 2 cards, which might create for some painful choices here and then. But once you discard down to 2 cards, then you'll draw your 3 cards, and the next move will start with the person who passed first when the round ended. So whoever was the one to officially end the round has to wait for their turn. When the game starts out, the tutorial in kind of an interesting way. Not a lot of games do this, but it is a really fun way to do things. It actually lets you use a full higher level party to run through one quick adventure, which in case of the game, the GM Gary basically swipes his brother Melvin's highly leveled, optimized team and lets you use them to run this really, really great high-level adventure that he'd heard about from his brother. And at the end of it, his brother kind of chides Gary for it. Melvin kind of chides Gary for it, saying, No, if you want to play with a new player, you gotta start him off at level 1. That's the rules. And if it sounds like I'm sounding a little bit like the Spoony one when I talk as Melvin, it's because Melvin reminds me a lot of him. Not really in any of the good ways. Gary is, of course, a very enthusiastic, but he's also the more sympathetic character. He's the guy you want to be your DM. He sends challenges after you, but he's also wanting to kind of help you out. Whereas Melvin is the real old school Munchkin, min-maxer kind of gamer who's really, really hard on his players and just does not give any kind of a fuck. Which, honestly, for lack of a better phrase, it makes him the villain of the game. Because, honestly, he's really kind of the DM that you don't want to have. This game definitely plays Melvin up as the guy you are supposed to hate. And also throughout the solo campaign, there's this running subplot of Gary getting pizza from this one pizza place. And the delivery person is always this one really, really cute girl. And him being, the sheltered nerd always acts like really, really awkward around her. But in endearing ways. I didn't get very far in the campaign before I had to reformat. But it was really cute, and the two characters, the pizza delivery girl and Gary, have a really nice dynamic between each other. So it's played really cool. When you do start as level 1, you go into the tavern, the Orc's Head Tavern, because all great adventures in D&D start is in a tavern. And you pick your warrior, either dwarf, elf, or human, of course. And when you go into the battles itself, it's on kind of this little grid map, kind of like 4th edition again, where you can move your players around with the moves. You can actually see what the ranges are for the various attacks. Some of them have long reach, some of them are more, for lack of a better phrase, melee distance. And you move your characters around. You want to try and move your characters around behind monsters, because if you move them around behind monsters, then your attacks are unblockable. You can use as many cards as you want. If you find yourself getting stuck and you still have cards in your hand, feel free to pass your turn. You can do that at any time. Just know that if you do that, Gary or your opponent, if you're doing PvP, may not pass their turn because they may still have stuff that they have to play. You can also buy new heroes in the tavern with in-game currency, which is gold. The second one, of course, is going to be a wizard. I picked an elf wizard. By the way, my first character, I picked a dwarf warrior. And all of my characters, because I do this theme naming thing whenever I have the chance to name multiple characters, they're all Raocow references. So my dwarf was Anka-Ouija. Then when I got my elf wizard, I affectionately named her Demo. It should be noted that when you get wizards, though, they do need line of sight to cast. If any part of the line between them and a monster cuts through a blocking tile, like a pillar or a box or something, you're not going to be able to attack them. It has to be a straight line across whatever the ground in your area is to the target in order to be attacked. And there are some spots that have difficult terrain. Those do not impede line of sight, but you'll find once you get to those spots, there will be a dark blue square. Even if your card says you can move further, you have to stop your movement there. It's like difficult terrain in Dungeons & Dragons, where once you get there, you have to slow down or outright stop, depending on how much movement you have. The third character you're going to get is the cleric or the priest. Of course, primarily human. And I went with a human named Charles, as in Charlie, or Chuck, or Charge and Chuck. Like I said, Raocow references. What can I say? I love the non-sequitur spouting French-Canadian. When you get the third character, the world really starts to open up, and there will be multiple different adventures that you can go on. They do have recommended level settings. The recommended level for them will actually be on the adventure itself, so you can see, okay, this one's a level 1 adventure, this one's a level 2 adventure, etc., etc., etc. And there will also be additional shops that open up as you build Renown, what's called Renown, which is basically your personal level as opposed to the character levels. And like I said, as that builds up, you'll unlock more and more things like different shops, and you'll be able to get higher leveled equipment as you go. You can also go to the cash shop and buy various different things with the cash shop money, which is lovingly called pizza slices. Because, Dungeons & Dragons, pizza, it goes together. your meta currency, for lack of a better phrase, is pizza. You can have like 80 slices of pizza that you use to buy, new skins, or blocks of time where you have membership into what's called the Card Hunter Club, where if you're a member of that club, you can unlock certain adventures, and you also get special rarer loot when you complete parts of an adventure. You don't have to do that, of course. Entirely optional. You can also get some higher level goods from going through PvP and doing co-op. But if you're inclined, you can go in, pick yourself up some pizza slices, and then buy whatever interesting thing you want. It should be noted, even if your characters get knocked out during an encounter in a campaign, your characters will heal up between encounters. So you will always have all 3 of your characters at each step of the way. So if 1 or 2 of your characters die in one encounter and still manage to beat that, you won't be going into the next encounter with only 1 character. You'll still be running with all 3 of your characters, which makes that a heck of a lot different than D&D, because, when you're dead in D&D, assuming that you don't have death saves that you have to make, your character is dead, so you have to bring in a new one. And that may not be until, you get into the next town, unless you have a really, really nice GM, which, for some reason, I always tend to find. Once you get the second level of Renowned, you get another shop called Randomar's Rarities, which is a higher level item shop. And you also get the luck-based chest and barrel game. There's also another one of these that unlocks when you get to Renown 5. And what it is there's one chest, of course, that you can buy with in-game gold, and it will get you some pretty good rare loot. But if you use pizza slices to buy higher level chests, then you will definitely get randomly generated higher loot from this chest. So that's kind of a way you can get higher level stuff by paying money. I know what you're thinking. This game's totally pay to win, but trust me, I have played through this all the way up to Renown 8. It is perfectly playable without having to buy any pizza slices, at least up to Renown 8. So, yes, you can get a little bit of an edge, and maybe it might also help you a little bit better with PvP, but it's not required, at least in the campaign. So, don't worry about this necessarily being a pay-to-win game. Later on, you'll also have some battles that have victory squares. What these are, they're little blocks that will be outlined in a golden square around them. And if you have majority control of that area, you will get a point at the end of each round. So in cases with those battles, you really kind of want to get to those pretty quickly, if for no other reason than to keep the enemy from gaining points every turn off of those victory squares. Because if you have control of that area, you can basically win battles without having to kill monsters. I mean, yes, most of the time, you will get usually 1 star, victory star, for every monster you kill in a battle, with some exceptions where there are some monsters that are optional kill. They will not give you victory stars. Of course, some of the bosses will give you 2 stars. But if you get to those victory squares and you control that area, you will gen 1 victory star every time. So if you just stay there and stave off enemies, you can basically win without having to kill hardly anyone. Once you hit the 3rd level of Renown, you unlock the shop where you can get changes of costume for your characters. Again, all of them cost pizza slices. Once you hit the 4th level of Renown, there's another high level market that opens up, and also treasure hunts, which are pizza slice costing adventures that can give you really, really rare loot. By the way, when these new pizza slice things come up, you will automatically get from Gary enough pizza slices to be able to open those up, with the exception of the Card Hunter membership. Although, once you get to the custom skins part, The amount that you get for a custom skin is precisely how much you would need to get a 1-week membership to the Card Hunter Club. So if you wanted, you could skip getting a skin altogether and then go and get the Card Hunter membership instead and have that for a week, just so you can get an idea of the kind of stuff that you'd get from that. In fact, I'd seen in the game chat that some people had actually done that. I didn't, but, you know, I didn't want to play really cheaply there. If all your characters die in an adventure, you get 2 retries for free. After that, you have to pay in-game gold to get another set of 3 tries. But it's not a very onerous amount of gold, I don't think. I think the only times that I ever had to use the gold rebuy, it was only like 15 gold. And as you're selling treasures as you go along, and later on as you're selling items, then you're going to be generating quite a bit of money, actually. Once Renown 6, another treasure hub opens up. And then once you get to Renown 7, expansion pack adventures show up. And what these expansion pack adventures are adventures that are actually created by people who play the game. So you'll get a series of 3 battles created by people where you're not going to be using your team. You're going to be using a different kind of a team. One that I came across had started off with a battle where you are a rust monster and you're having to face off against some lizard men, I believe it was. And you have to beat like 6 creatures all by yourself. They are tough, but if you've gotten the hang of the game by now, you probably should be able to get through them. Might have to retry them a time or two. Same retry rules apply, of course. But, you know, they're challenging, but they're not like brutal. All in all, I had a lot of fun with this game, and I know David's actually been having fun with this game too. In his own words, he once told me that he's having fun getting to play a game where he actually gets to relax for once, which is just fantastic in his own right, because he's had so many problems with idiots in gaming. I'm not going to name any specific instances or out any names, but especially with D&D, of course, he's told his stories on this show about, you know, the dick bags that he's had experiences with. So this is kind of his way of getting to experience D&D without having to directly deal with the jackasses that he used to deal with. So he's having a lot of fun with that. As I said before, please check out his Let's Play of this game. If you want to see what it's like, get it on Steam. It's free to play, so money's not a barrier here. If you don't want to use the cash shop, I honestly don't think you'll have to. And yeah, this definitely gets a casual mode recommendation. This is a real fun game to play. And I know personally, me playing it, I've sat there playing it for, you know, a good 2 or 3 hours at a time, just basically lost in the game. Which, it's a very, very simple game, but it still manages to draw you in for, you know, those several hours at a time. Honestly, what more can you ask from a game? Alright, that's it for gaming this week. Coming up next, finally, we have the postmortem to Battleground. See you then. Like what you're hearing? Well, feel free to subscribe to us and get new videos as they're released. And be sure to like and share this video, and go over to facebook.com/casualmodepodcast and give us a like. Thanks.